Today, we're going to talk about another interesting show on the rise under the DC universe. Based on the comics of the same name, it tells the story of several individuals who've undergone tragic accidents which ended up gaining them superhuman, albeit quirky, powers. They're aided by Nick Calder, otherwise known as the Chief, who welcomes these shunned individuals into his residence, otherwise known as the Doom Manor. This series premiered in February 2019, and a third season is already underway, so you still have time to catch up, since Season 3 may premiere at the end of 2021 if filming and production goes well. Underneath the heroes' exteriors lie the actors who portray these unique characters. So, for today's episode, we're going to be listing down the Doom Patrol's characters, actors, and actresses in real life, as well as their ages, so stay tuned for more. But before we get into the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as well as turn on post notifications so you don't miss anything that we put up. Diane Guerrero as Crazy Jane. In the series, Jane is the dominant personality out of the 64 alternative personalities that reside in the body of Kate Chalice. As a result of being exposed to the alien dominator's gene bomb, each of the personalities has its own unique superpowers. Jane has retained her exact age when she first entered the Doom Manor back in 1978, with Kate Chalice being born during the 1950s. This makes her character's age around the late 60s to early 70s. She's portrayed by 34-year-old Diane Guerrero, an American actress whose breakout role in Orange is the New Black as inmate Martiz Ramos opened doors for her. April Bowlby as Rita Farr. Playing the famous actress Rita Farr in Doom Patrol is April Bowlby, an American actress and model. In the series, Rita's river accident happened when she was in her mid-30s back in the 1950s. This puts her age at well over 90 years old, but due to her unstable and gelatinous persona, she managed to maintain her looks as she went back at the height of her fame. In contrast to Rita, April is 40 years old and achieved popularity by portraying Candy in the series 2.5 Men. Matt Bomer and Matthew Zuck as Larry Traynor. Matt Bomer and Matthew Zuck share the role of Captain Lawrence Larry Traynor, a former U.S. pilot who crashed his plane upon making contact with a negative spirit, which ended up latching himself onto him. The Bureau of Normalcy managed to save Larry, and the Chief eventually took him to reside in the Doom Manor. Larry's age in the series is 95, which is pretty close to Rita's age. Before the accident and during flashbacks, Larry's is portrayed by 43-year-old Matt Bomer. Matt has received various awards for his acting, such as a Golden Globe, a Critics' Choice Award, and a Primary Emmy Award. He's also an LGBTQIAP rights activist and has openly come out in public in 2012 during his appearance speech at the Steve Chase Humanitarian Award, where he thanked his partner Simon Halls and their children. He also leads his voice in his current and banded state, which played a 46-year-old Matthew Zuck, a veteran stuntman and actor who's also known for his work in Greyhound and the upcoming film Fear Street. Brendan Fraser and Riley Shannon as Cliff Steele. Similar to Larry Traynor's setup, Cliff Steele is portrayed by two actors, namely Brendan Fraser and Riley Shannon. Before he was to become a massive persona made of steel, Cliff Steele used to have a normal life with a wife named Kate and a daughter named Clara. He was a successful race car driver whose fame and success drove him to value superficial relationships, even involving himself in affairs and neglecting his family. Cliff experienced an unfortunate accident, which was actually orchestrated by Chief, which took 2 tries. In the first one, he almost crashed into another vehicle, but managed to dodge at the last minute. But the second one proved fatal since it destroyed Cliff's human body, but the Chief managed to salvage his brain for experiments. Cliff was born on May 23, 1956, which makes him 65 years old at the show premiering in 2019, if we were to follow the timeline, that is. He is played by Brendan Fraser, who is 52 years old and rose to popularity for playing the role of Rick O'Connell in the Mummy franchise and as the role of George in George of the Jungle. Although not quite active in the film industry, Brendan found a new audience playing on the small screen. He plays the human form of Cliff Steele and also lends his voice to Cliff in the cyborg form. Playing the physical role of Cliff is 28-year-old Riley Shannon. Timothy Dalton as Niles Calder. Also next on the list is Dr. Niles Calder, otherwise known as the Chief, who provided his residence as a home to the Doom Patrol. He's the one who has treated our unlikely heroes from their predicament, but at the same time, he's also the one who orchestrated the events that led to them gaining superhuman powers. The Chief's character is portrayed by 74-year-old British actor Timothy Dalton, who is also playing the iconic role of James Bond in the Eon production series. In the series, the Chief was born in 1881 and founded the Bureau of Oddities before the First World War broke out. During one of their research trips in Yukon in 1913, he and another researcher were attacked by wolves, with Niles running away and ended up breaking his leg. Before he lost consciousness, his last memory was that of a large creature similar to a bear. When he woke up, he found himself inside of a cave with a hairy woman nursing him back to health, despite being hostile at first. It turns out the woman, called Oweya, is part of an ancient tribe gifted with immortality and psychic abilities. Eventually, the two warmed up to each other and eventually formed a relationship and had a child who also inherited some of her mother's superhuman abilities. However, Niles needed to go back to the real world and rejoin his organization, which was now renamed the Bureau of Normalcy and has taken a turn for the worst. For that, he has vowed to research immortality and make himself immortal, as well as to protect Oweya and their child from being a subject of torture and experiments. Given how long he's lived, the chief is 138 years old by the time the series premiered in 2019. Jovian Wade as Victor Vic Stone, or Cyborg. Although technically not part of the Doom Patrol squad, Victor Vic Stone, or Cyborg, has been one of the prominent characters in the series of late. Originally part of the Teen Titans, Vic is currently present at the Doom Manor due to his longtime friendship with the Chief. He's played by 27-year-old Jovian Wade, an English actor who rose to prominence for playing the role of Manu in the BBC TV comedy series Big School, and as Jordan Johnson in the soap opera EastEnders. Previously, Vic was just like any normal teenager with a passion for football and hanging out with his friends. But in an argument gone wrong, his parents' lab led to Vic angrily throwing chemicals around the room, to which led to an explosion. The explosion killed his mother while it left Vic in a critical state, and the only way to save his life was to make cybernetic enhancements to his body, which gave birth to Cyborg. Abigail Shapiro as Dorothy Spinner. Newly introduced in Season 2, Dorothy Spinner makes her debut in the show as the son of Niles Calder and the woman who rescued him back in Yukon, Oweya. Despite having the appearance of a little girl, she's well over 100 years old, and was the first shown as part of a traveling circus called the Ape-Faced Girl, due to her appearance. Being isolated from the rest of the world, she made her own group of imaginary friends to keep her company, which ultimately she brought to life as well because of her powers. Dorothy is portrayed by 20-year-old Abigail Shapiro, who shares in an interview with Insider how she does sympathize with the character, which eventually led her to playing the role with a deeper connection. The actress grew up with cleiidocranial dysplasia, a rare bone disorder that affects about 1 in a million people, which greatly influenced her to take the role of Dorothy, saying, quote, "I spent a lot of my life hiding my face and thinking I was really ugly, so that's how I relate to Dorothy a lot." Alan Tudyk as Eric Morton, or Mr. Nobody. Since Season 1's villain, Eric Morton, also known as his alias Mr. Nobody, is a metahuman who is imbued with superhuman abilities as a result of being part of an experiment. Before he was Mr. Nobody, he was Eric Morton, a member of a supervillain team called the Brotherhood of Evil. He was kicked out of the group and was replaced by Monsieur Mala, a highly intelligent talking gorilla. In 1948, he went to Paraguay to seek Heinrich von Fuchs, a Nazi scientist known for his, quote, theoretical experimentation on human beings. Greatly interested, Eric paid the doctor a hefty sum of money for these experiments to be performed on him, which granted him multiple capabilities as Mr. Nobody. This supervillain is portrayed by 49-year-old Alan Tudyk, a prominent American actor who's also frequently lent his voice to several projects. His character disappeared in Season 1 and even hinted that he's working on another DC project, leading his voice as the Joker in the animated series Harley Quinn. Lex Lang as Candlemaker. Finally, we have Season 3's final villain, Candlemaker. He's voiced by 55-year-old Lex Lang, a prominent voice actor in America who has lent his voice to animated series and video game characters through the years. Best known for lending his voice to Crash Bandicoot's nemesis Dr. Neo Cortex, he's also an active philanthropist and co-founded the Love Planet Foundation way back in 1996, which aims to create educational material for children on the importance of recycling, world water awareness, and the preservation of the planet. Back to the character of Candlemaker though, he's one of Dorothy's imaginary friends who grants Dorothy's wish, but in actuality, he has a sinister motive and wants to get out of the world. Born from Dorothy's imagination, he can bestow wishes, kineticness, telepathy, and invulnerability as shown in the series. And with that wraps up today's episode of Doom Patrol's Characters, Real Life Actors, and Age. If you want to see more of this content, please click that like button and hit the subscribe, as well as post notification bell so that way you don't miss anything else from us. Until next time guys, we'll see you later.